First, the techniques are powerful, genuinely powerful. They can reshape circumstances, attract resources, heal conditions, and transform identity. In the wrong hands, or with the wrong intention, that power could be misused. This technique was guarded because it eliminates the primary mechanism of control, emotional manipulation. The seventh technique is the most advanced, the most carefully guarded of all. The mystery schools considered it the capstone, the technique that only the most developed initiates received. Welcome to the Reality Revolution. I'm your host, Brian Scott. Before we begin today's episode, I want to invite you to join the Reality Revolution community at skool.com, skool.com/Reality Revolution. We've had the most amazing experience. The most incredible people have joined us. We have weekly sessions, masterminds, networking sessions, exclusive content, worksheets for my videos. So much more is available. I look forward to seeing you there and helping you to manifest your dreams. Today's episode is They Didn't Want You to Have This: The Guarded Techniques of Reality Creation. They didn't want you to have this. For thousands of years, in candlelit chambers, beneath temples, in private lodges sealed with blood oaths, in inner circles that chose their members with extreme care, specific techniques for reshaping reality were practiced, perfected, and protected. These were step-by-step methods that trained the human mind to do something extraordinary: override the default reality and install a new one. Every civilization that reached a certain level of development produced mystery schools. Egypt had the schools of Horus and Thoth. Greece had the Eleusinian and Orphic mysteries. Jewish mysticism developed the Kabbalah. Medieval Europe produced the Rosicrucians and the inner circles of Freemasonry. India had the yogic traditions guarded within ashrams. All of them independently across thousands of miles and thousands of years developed the same core practices. They use different language, different symbols, different rituals, but when you strip away the cultural dressing, the techniques underneath are identical, and all of them agreed on one thing: these techniques were too powerful to release to the general public. Today, I'm opening the vault. The techniques you're about to receive were never meant for public consumption. They were earned through years of initiation, memorized rather than written, and transmitted person to person in unbroken chains stretching back millennia. I've spent years gathering these from obscure texts, from decoded symbolism, from studying the fragments that survived. I've tested every one of them. You've seen it in my podcasts. We've discussed them. They work. They work because they're based on the actual mechanics of consciousness and reality. 7 techniques, 7 keys to reality creation. The same practices that built empires, produced miracles, and gave ordinary people extraordinary power over their circumstances. They didn't want you to have this, but here it is. Let's begin with where these techniques originated and why they've been so carefully guarded. In the temples of ancient Egypt, initiates underwent a transformation that typically lasted years. They were trained in techniques that altered their state of consciousness so profoundly that their relationship to physical reality permanently changed. The Egyptian system was precise. They understood that consciousness operates in layers, like frequencies on a radio, and that most humans are locked into a single station. Their techniques were designed to teach initiates to change the station deliberately, to access states of consciousness where reality becomes fluid, responsive, and shapeable. When Greek philosophers traveled to Egypt, and many of the greatest did, including Pythagoras, Plato, and Thales. They brought these techniques back and adapted them. The Greek mystery rites at Eleusis used ritual, sound, sacred substances, and guided visualization to induce states where the boundaries of ordinary reality dissolved. Participants in the Eleusinian mysteries reported permanent transformation. Cicero wrote that the mysteries gave initiates reasons to live with joy and die with hope. Plato considered initiation the highest purpose of philosophy. The techniques were hidden for 3 reasons, and understanding these reasons matters because it tells you something about the power of what you're about to receive. First, the techniques are powerful, genuinely powerful. They can reshape circumstances, attract resources, heal conditions, and transform identity. In the wrong hands, or with the wrong intention, that power could be misused. The mystery schools required years of ethical training before techniques were shared. Second, the techniques threaten existing power structures. If ordinary people understand they could shape their reality, attract wealth, heal themselves, access knowledge beyond the physical senses, then every institution that profits from human helplessness and dependency would lose its grip. Religious institutions that position themselves as the only access point to the divine. Medical systems that position pills as the only path to health. Economic systems that position scarcity as natural and inevitable. Third, the techniques require readiness. Not everyone who receives them can use them. The mind has to be prepared. Beliefs have to be cleared. A certain foundation of understanding has to be in place, or the practices simply don't work. You're ready. If you found this video, if you've stayed this long, if something in you is resonating, the foundation is in place. Let me show you what the initiates were given. I'm going to share 7 techniques with you. Each one was guarded independently. Different schools, different traditions, different centuries, but together they form a complete system for reality creation. Think of them as 7 keys. Each opens a different lock. Used individually, they're powerful. Used together and in sequence, they're transformative in ways that I can only describe as supernatural, though they're entirely natural. We've just been taught that natural is far less than it actually is. I'll teach you each technique, explain its origin, share why it was guarded, and show you how to practice it. Then, in the activation at the end, I'll guide you through all 7 in sequence. That sequence is the initiation the mystery school members received. It's yours today. Technique 1. The inner temple. The first technique is the foundation for everything else. The mystery schools called it the construction of the inner temple, a permanent sanctuary with your own consciousness that you can access at any time. This isn't casual visualization. This is architectural construction inside your consciousness. The Egyptian initiates spent months building their inner temple, choosing every detail, returning to it daily, reinforcing it until it was as real to them as any physical building. The inner temple serves as a sacred workspace. It's where all other techniques are performed. It's your personal operating theater for reality creation. Working without it is like performing surgery in a parking lot. Technically possible, but the conditions make everything harder. The practice? You build a specific place in your mind, not a vague daydream. A precise, detailed environment with consistent architecture. The same floor beneath your feet every time you enter. The same walls, the same quality of light. You return to this exact space daily until entering it produces an immediate shift in your state of consciousness. The Rosicrucians used this extensively. Their initiates were taught to build an inner chamber with specific symbolic elements. A flame representing will, a mirror representing self-knowledge, a book representing wisdom, and a door that opened onto the desired reality. Why was this guarded? Because the inner temple creates a permanent altered state that the initiate can access in seconds. Once constructed and reinforced, entering the temple automatically shifts brainwave patterns, changes biochemistry, and opens the channel between conscious intention and subconscious execution. You become someone who can alter their state of consciousness at will, anywhere, anytime. That capability alone makes you fundamentally different from people who are locked into a single state of awareness. The second technique, the mental rehearsal. This goes far beyond ordinary visualization. The mystery schools called it the mental rehearsal, and it was the primary method used to install new realities into the subconscious mind. Modern visualization tells you to imagine what you want. The mental rehearsal tells you to rehearse what you want in first person, in full sensory detail with emotional intensity, until your nervous system cannot distinguish the rehearsal from an actual memory. Here's what modern neuroscience confirms. The brain does not distinguish between a vividly imagined experience and a real one. The same neural pathways fire. The same neurochemistry is released. The same synaptic connections are strengthened. When you mentally rehearse an event with enough sensory richness and emotional intensity, your brain encodes it as something that has already happened. The mystery school method was specific. You don't imagine watching yourself succeed. That's third person, and the subconscious treats it as someone else's experience. You imagine being in the experience, seeing through your own eyes, feeling with your own hands, hearing the sounds that would be present, tasting, smelling, touching, full immersion. And the critical element, you rehearse the scene after the desire is fulfilled, not the moment of getting it, the moment after, the settled, natural feeling of already having it. This is what Neville Goddard rediscovered in the 20th century, but the technique is thousands of years older than Neville. The Kabbalistic schools taught a version of this called Hitbonenat, a deep contemplative practice where the mystic would constrict an inner scene of the desired outcome and dwell in it until the boundaries between imagination and reality dissolved completely. The third technique is perhaps the most jealously guarded of all. The alchemists called it the transmutation of lead into gold, emotional alchemy. But they were never talking about metals. They were talking about emotions. Emotional alchemy is the deliberate transformation of a low-frequency emotional state into a high-frequency one, not by suppressing the negative emotion, not by replacing it with positive thinking, but by transmuting it, using the raw energy of fear, anger, grief, or shame and alchemically converting it into power, clarity, love, or creative force. Here's what the alchemists understood that modern psychology still hasn't fully grasped. Emotions are energy, pure, undifferentiated energy with a label attached. The energy of rage and the energy of passionate creation are the same energy at different frequencies. Fear and excitement are physiologically almost identical. The same hormone release, the same nervous system activation. The only difference is the story the mind tells about the sensation. The practice, when a negative emotion arises, you do not resist it. You do not try to think positive. You go into the body, feel the raw sensation without the story, and then deliberately redirect the energy upward, from survival centers to creative centers, from the gut to the heart, from the base of the spine to the crown. The mystery schools taught this using breath, sound, and intention together. You breathe into the emotion. You tone a specific sound to create vibration in the body, and you intend the energy to rise. What was fear becomes clarity. What was anger becomes decisive action. What was grief becomes depth and compassion. This technique was guarded because it eliminates the primary mechanism of control, emotional manipulation. A person who can transmute their own emotional states cannot be controlled by fear, cannot be manipulated by shame, cannot be paralyzed by guilt. They become emotionally sovereign, and emotional sovereignty is the foundation of reality creation. The fourth technique is one that multiple traditions develop independently, which tells you something about its power: the mirror work, using your own reflection as a portal for identity transformation. The yogic traditions called it tritaka, a gazing practice that quiets the mind and opens access to deeper consciousness. Kabbalistic mystics used mirror gazing to contact the divine self. Egyptian priests used polished obsidian mirrors in ritual, and modern researchers at the University of Urbino have documented that even brief periods of mirror gazing in low light produce altered states of consciousness, experiences of seeing different faces, different identities, different versions of the self. But the mystery school application goes further than gazing. The technique involves standing before a mirror and deliberately speaking to the self you are becoming. Not affirmations in the modern sense. Those are often empty repetitions the conscious mind rejects. This is direct transmission from your current self to your future self, using the mirror as a bridge between identities. The practice: in dim light, gaze softly at your own eyes, not staring or straining, just resting your gaze on your own pupils. After several minutes, the face begins to shift. Features soften. The fixed identity loosens. In this liminal state, you speak directly to the version of you who has already manifested the desired reality. You speak as them. You describe their life. You feel their certainty. You are essentially overriding your self-concept. While the normal identity defenses are down, the mirror creates a feedback loop. You see yourself while simultaneously reimagining yourself. The visual confirmation makes the reimagining more real. The altered state makes the reimagining more deeply received. This was guarded because identity is the master program. Change someone's identity, who they believe themselves to be at the deepest level, and everything in the reality reorganizes to match. This technique gives direct access to the identity layer. The fifth technique is the one every mystery school considered the central initiation. Every tradition has a version of it. The Egyptians sealed initiates in sarcophagi for 3 days. The Greeks descended symbolically to the underworld of Eleusis. The Christian tradition centers on death and resurrection. The shamanic traditions require a dismemberment and reassembly. All of them are pointing to the same technique: the deliberate death of the old self. This is an actual practice. The initiate deliberately releases their attachment to their current reality. Their name, their story, their wounds, their limitations, their history, their beliefs about what's possible. They allow the old self to die. The practice: you identify the version of yourself that cannot have what you desire. You look at that version honestly, their beliefs and patterns, their story, their fears, and then you release it. You grieve it. You honor what it gave you, and you let it go completely. This is not letting go in the casual self-help sense. This is a felt experience of disillusion, of dying to who you were, of feeling the gap between the old identity and the new one and choosing to step across. Why was this technique the centerpiece of every mystery tradition? Because the old self is the container that holds the old reality in place. As long as the old identity persists, it keeps recreating the old circumstances. You can visualize, affirm, and intend all day, but if the old self is really running the operating system, nothing fundamental changes. The death of the old self clears the operating system entirely. It creates space for a completely new identity to install, one that naturally produces the reality you desire. After the old self dies, the sixth technique fills the void, the assumption. This is the practice of stepping into a new identity so completely that it becomes your default state. Neville Goddard brought this into modern language when he taught assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled. But the technique predates Neville by millennia. In the Egyptian mysteries, after the symbolic death in the sarcophagus, the initiate was reborn into a new identity, given a new name, dressed in new garments, treated by everyone as a fundamentally different person. The practice, once the old self has been released, you assume the identity of the self who already has what you desire. You don't try to become them. You don't work toward being them. You assume you are already them. You wear their identity the way you wear clothing. You think their thoughts. You feel their emotions. You respond to life the way they respond. The key distinction, you're not pretending. Pretending maintains the awareness that you're acting. Assuming means you have accepted the new identity as real. The way a method actor doesn't pretend to be the character, they become the character. They respond instinctively from the character's psychology. That's assumption. The Hermetic tradition encoded this as the principle of mentalism. The universe is mental, and by assuming a mental state, you set in motion the forces that make it physical. The mental state always precedes the physical manifestation. Always. The assumption comes first. The evidence follows. This was guarded because assumption is the mechanism of reality creation itself. Everything you currently experience is the result of a prior assumption. Your income reflects what you assume you're worth. Your health reflects what you assume is normal for your body. Your relationships reflect what you assume you deserve. Change the assumption, and reality restructures around the new one. The seventh technique is the most advanced, the most carefully guarded of all. The mystery schools considered it the capstone, the technique that only the most developed initiates received. It's called the silent decree. The silent decree is an act of consciousness in which you declare something to be true, not with words or visualization or with emotion, but with pure knowing. It's a decision made at the deepest level of your being that requires no confirmation, evidence, or support. It simply is. Think of the differences between hoping something will happen, believing it will happen, and knowing it has happened. The silent decree operates at the level of knowing. It's the consciousness state that precedes all manifestation. The moment where something shifts from possible to inevitable. Not because you made it so, but because you recognize it as already done. The practice, after all other techniques have been employed, after the inner temple is built, the mental rehearsal completed, the emotional alchemy performed, the mirror work done, the old self released, and the new identity assumed, you seal the entire operation with a silent decree. You don't speak it aloud. You don't write it down. You don't announce it to the universe. You simply know, in the deepest chamber of your being, in the most silent space of your consciousness, you know that it is done. The way you know your own name, the way you know you're alive. Without question, without doubt, without even the need to think about it. The Kabbalists called this reaching the level of Keter, the crown, the highest emanation, the point where consciousness and creation are one. The Zen tradition points to it with the concept of Mushin, no mind, the state beyond thought where direct reality of creation occurs. The Christian mystics described it as the peace that passes understanding. This was the most guarded technique because it's the most powerful. The silent decree, when performed by a mind that has been properly prepared through the first 6 techniques, doesn't repeat reality to change. It informs reality that change has already occurred. Now you see the complete system, 7 techniques, each powerful alone, but designed to work in sequence. The inner temple creates the sacred workspace, the laboratory where transformation occurs. The mental rehearsal programs the desired reality into the subconscious as memory. Emotional alchemy clears the energetic blocks, and transforms resistance into fuel. The mirror work rewrites self-concept at the identity level. The death of the old self removes the container holding the old reality in place. The assumption installs the new identity that naturally produces the new reality. And the silent decree seals the entire operation with the authority of pure knowing. This is the system that was fragmented across traditions, encoded in symbols, and guarded behind initiation rites. Each tradition preserves pieces of it. The Egyptians emphasized the inner temple and the death. The Hermeticists focus on emotional alchemy and mental rehearsal. The Kabbalists developed the silent decree. Neville Goddard rediscovered the assumption. No one tradition had the complete picture. The full system was assembled only in the highest inner circles, where initiates from multiple schools compared notes. Today, the full system is yours. In a moment, I'm going to guide you through all 7 techniques in sequence. This is the initiation that mystery school members receive after years of preparation. Let me be clear about what's about to happen. You're going to build your inner temple. You're going to mentally rehearse a desired reality until it becomes memory. You're going to transmute any resistance that arises. You're going to stand before the inner mirror and meet the new version of yourself. You're going to let the old self die. You're going to assume the new identity, and you're going to seal it with the silent decree. When this sequence is complete, something will have permanently shifted. The people who went through this in ancient times reported that the world looked different afterwards. Colors brighter, synchronicities immediate. The sense that reality was responding to them rather than happening to them. Ready yourself. Choose what you want to manifest. Hold it in your awareness. And let's begin. Settle into stillness now. Let the outer world fade. Let the noise of ordinary consciousness quiet until you can hear the deeper signal beneath it. Begin building your inner temple. See the floor beneath your feet, stone, smooth, ancient, warm. Feel its solidity. This is your foundation. Walls rise around you, not confining, protecting. Sacred space, your space, a place where ordinary rules don't apply, where consciousness has full authority, where reality is fluid and responsive to your intention. Light enters from above, golden warm alive, fills your temple with the energy of creation itself. You're standing in a space where anything is possible, where the only law is the law of your consciousness. The temple is yours. It exists inside you permanently now. You can return to it at any time. It is the seat of your power. Now, within your temple, begin the rehearsal. Bring forth the reality you desire. See it through your own eyes. You are there, in the reality where your desire is already fulfilled. You're looking out at a world where it is done, where it's normal, where it's just your life. Feel what you would touch, hear what you would hear, the sounds of this reality, the specific concrete details of the life you've already stepped into. Let this scene become so real that your body responds, your heart rate shifts, your breathing changes. Your nervous system begins to record this as lived experience. Your brain is encoding this right now as something that has already happened. Now notice as you hold this vision, resistance arises, fear, doubt, the voice that says this can't be real, the feeling in your body that says this isn't true, good, this is the raw material. Feel the resistance, don't light it, don't suppress it, feel it fully. Where is it in your body? What does it feel like? The energy, this fear, this doubt, it's power. It's creative energy that has been misdirected. Now transmute it. Breathe into the sensation. Feel the energy. Not the story, the energy, and let it rise up through your body. From survival to creation, fear to fuel, from doubt to certainty. Feel it, transforming as it moves. The lead becomes gold. The resistance becomes rocket fuel. Every ounce of fear you just felt is now powering your creation. This is alchemy, the most guarded science of the ancient world. Within your temple, a mirror appears. Stand before it. See yourself reflected, but look deeper, past the familiar face, past the identity you've been wearing. If you want to, you can look at a real mirror. Whatever is more effective for you. Now let the reflection change. The version of you who already lives in the reality you just rehearsed, let them appear in the mirror. See their eyes, their posture, the way they hold themselves, the quiet confidence, the settled certainty. Speak to them silently, not as a stranger, as yourself, because they are you. In a different timeline with a different story, but they're looking back at you with recognition. Feel the connection between you, the current version and the realized version, two expressions of the same consciousness. The mirror isn't showing you someone you could become, it's showing you someone you already are. Now comes the death, the sacred death that makes new life possible. Feel the old self, the version of you that struggles, the version of you that doubts, that has been carrying wounds and limitations and stories about why you can't have what you desire. Feel them fully. Honor them. They carried you this far. They survived. They got you to this moment. And now, with gratitude, dissolve it. Let them go. Feel the old identity releasing. The old story dissolving, the old beliefs falling away like leaves in autumn. You're not destroying anything, you're completing a cycle. You are completing a cycle. Everything that needed to be lived has been lived. The old self dies with peace, with the same peace that comes at the end of a long journey when you finally arrive home. The old self journey is complete. Let them rest. In the space where the old self was, step into the new. Assume the identity you saw in the mirror. Not gradually, completely now. You are the person who has already what you desire. Feel it, know it, be it. Their thoughts are your thoughts. You are wearing the identity like it was made for you, because it was. This is who you were always meant to become. You're not creating a new self, you're revealing one that has always been beneath the layers. Feel the reality of this new identity in every cell. Let your body reorganize around it. Let your energy field restructure. Let your frequency shift to match the reality you have selected. You are no longer becoming. You have become. This is not belief. It's fact. Same way you know your own name. The same way you know you exist, beyond doubt, beyond question. It is done. The decree is sealed. The initiation is complete. What has been decreed in silence will manifest in form. Because you knew, and knowing is the highest creative act. Let yourself return now, rising from the deep space of the activation back toward ordinary awareness, but carrying everything with you. The temple remains inside you. The new identity is installed. The decree is sealed. Notice how different you feel. There's a weight that's gone. The weight of the old self, the old story, the old limitations, and there's something new in its place. A settled certainty, a knowing that can't be shaken because it doesn't depend on evidence. In the days and weeks ahead, use these techniques, practice them individually, run the full sequence regularly. Each time you move through them, the effects compound. The inner temple becomes more solid. The mental rehearsal becomes more vivid. The emotional alchemy becomes more efficient. The death and rebirth becomes faster. The assumption becomes more natural. You now carry techniques that were guarded by masters and mystery schools for millennia. Techniques that were deemed too powerful for the uninitiated, that threatened every system built on human powerlessness. They didn't want you to have this. Mystery schools guarded it, institutions suppressed it, cultural systems buried it. Because these techniques properly applied make you ungovernable. Not in the political sense, in the existential sense. You become someone who generates their reality from within rather than receiving it from without. That's what the initiates become. That's what you're becoming. A sovereign consciousness, a reality creator. Someone who carries the tools to reshape the experience in any direction they choose. They didn't want you to have this. Now, it's yours. Welcome to the Reality Revolution.